This is To Wit, a podcast for women in tech doing life. I'm Chrissy Campbell.
And I'm Melinda Smith. Hello, friends.
Hello. Happy February.
Happy? Oh, yes.
It's a short one, but a good one.
Yes, it is. It's 2 days closer to the next pay period. Isn't it a leap year this year?
It is.
Yeah.
I know someone that's born on leap year day.
That's so cool to me. Because they're only 7?
Yeah, basically. That's how that works.
I got some more good feedback that our intro outro music is still a little loud. So I'm going to try and bring that down, which I should have by the time anybody hears this part.
So hopefully it was better this time.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think I keep lowering it, but then it's freaking people out.
I mean, isn't this like your day job and all that you do?
Yeah, it is, totally. 100%. I like this, though. I do.
How's your 2020 going so far?
It's going. It's just the winter is long here this year, so I'm like, ugh. But I mean, everything else is good. Kids good, family's good, work's good, workouts are good. I'm so ready for spring. But I keep thinking, like, I just got to get through February and then March, even though we get some snow in March. But like March is technically like the little shovel. The little shove it up your. Nope, I'm not saying that right. Like shovel it to the shoving you to spring.
Okay,
it's like a Freudian slip all over the place.
Leapfrog into spring. We had snow in Charlotte for 2 whole seconds.
That's crazy.
And there was 14 videos on my Facebook feed. And we also had a tornado today. So it's been an interesting little start of the year, but that's the big excitement.
Yeah. I kind of feel that way
I love
where everything's just normal.
Yeah, we're both like, well, yeah, things
I
are
do
happening.
have other fun updates, but I want to save that for another episode when we can get into it.
Ooh.
But this episode, we have a twofer. 2 for 1, 2 for the price of 1, 2 for the bargain of 1, 2 for the bang of 1. We have Hector and Kate Perez, or Katie as I call her. You'll hear why. So.
It's a BOGO.
It's a BOGO.
For us finally catching up to having an ally, which Hector is a wonderful example of. And then, to have them both was just a bonus. So I'll talk a little bit about, I met Kate, I guess like 2 years ago now or so. And then, after having Lauren on and their super exciting Dreamforce adventures for Maravitz, it seemed like a great time to chat with them. So I also feel like in looking into that, like I don't know where they get the energy to have their life, because they're both so wonderful and lovely. But like, this is like a powerhouse IT couple. They've been doing this for years, and they just, I don't know, they're just like adventurous and warm and wonderful. So,
and shared their puppy with us. Well, virtually at least.
So yeah, let's go chat with some of our favorite Seattleans via Texans.
Welcome to
time for a twofer.
Hector and Katie, welcome.
Just Kate.
Thank you.
Kate.
Either one.
Oh, I fucked that up.
No, my family calls me Katie, so it's the term of endearment. So just consider.
See, we're besties already.
Yeah.
Sweet. I'll just edit out. I'll be like, yeah, I know.
Obviously, that's what I said. And that's true. She does the editing. She's gonna fix it and make me sound like the asshole. No.
That's really the whole reason I do this. And I was like, how can I make Christy look bad?
Yeah, definitely. So what's funny is I met Kate at Texas Dreamin' last year. And so now I associate her as living in Texas. So it's been really hard for me to understand that she doesn't live in Texas. And when we're trying to coordinate time zones, that is hard. But that was right before y'all rebranded. So that was a big, exciting phase that you survived.
Yeah.
And then we got to hang out in Portland at Forcelandia too. So which Belinda's convinced she's going to come to and hang out with us again
Oh,
this
it's a
year.
fun
I
one.
really, really want
It's
to.
got
We
its
can go to
own,
detention
yeah,
together.
it's got its own
I love
culture.
it.
So, especially because I know you and you're both great, but also because we had LaRon on as our last guest, and obviously she had great things to say about the program, and that was before Dreamforce. And I think she ended up going to Dreamforce and getting a job since we interviewed her.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
Yeah, I ran into her at the Mocha Laka Laka, Mocha Kikiana.
The welcome party.
Yes. And I was like, because we had just spoken to her, and I was like, hey, what are you? Yeah. So it was very exciting to see her, but we must have been last minute because neither of us knew.
and then I was in a Dreamforce, and y'all got famous.
Yeah.
So tell me
Y'all
about
did get famous.
tell me about the video and what that whole process was like, and how the not the fallout, but like how has that been for you?
It's so I can speak a little bit to it. It was so actually I was in San Francisco at Trailblazer Summit, and got kind of a couple of our contacts at Salesforce. We're kind of some text message threads going on and being like, hey, could you guys get to Austin for a video? And we're thinking about maybe doing something on Maravis. And it was a lot of like bits and pieces over the course of like 12 hours. No, like the day, like a day and a half.
Just checking
And
in.
just
Did you get there?
but so I was like, okay, they want to make a video about Maravis for something, and then Dreamforce sort of bubbled up. And then they kept talking about the keynote, the keynote, the keynote, the keynote. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, fantastic. Like, what keynote? And they're like, Mark's keynote.
The capital TH, the
Keynote, which I guess is, that's their term for
the
big show. And it just sort of turned in, to a whirlwind because I wasn't in enough of a whirlwind with the rebrand and all of the incredible cohorts that we had.
Classes going on.
Yeah, we tripled our cohorts between 2018 and 2019. We had 2 cohorts going on. We had rebranded, done all of the new swag and website and everything. And then they were like, oh, by the way, that break you were looking forward to, not happening. We're coming into Dreamforce.
No.
So
that's not happening. Can I ask a question?
No.
Where did you get the term cohort, or is that a military term, or like, I love it. It feels very like
Specific.
Part of me is like the quarry from Fred Flintstone, and then a cohort is very like Harry Potter. I just like it, but I don't know where you got it.
It's a military term that's used in the military. I don't actually know a lot of the background on the word itself, but when we started using it, I think it was cohort 4 or 5. The folks that were in the class, they knew exactly.
It sort of stuck.
So it kind of stuck.
But
like,
I think
we didn't plan it.
But I think it's evolved, and I think it kind of almost holds a meaning for the civilian world, where you're talking about a group of individuals going through a program or a process as one team or as one, because that's what we refer to in business school. We refer to the 4 cohorts going through the program at the same time. So I think it's got a little bit of expanded meaning, but we it's interesting because we want to have obviously a really respectful and honorary nod to a lot of the military, given that's the background. But we also don't want to be like, everything in camo with like, I mean, there's and we had a lot of those very sort of strategic conversations when we were rebranding around because Maravis very much speaks to the military community, but it also speaks to a very corporate and very civilian community. When you're talking about funding or hiring or volunteers, it's got to speak to 2 very different audiences. And the rebrand, I mean, they knocked it out of the park. So I'm incredibly happy. But we had all of that launch activity, and then Dreamforce, and then we flew down to Austin. And
I guess going back to the question, like when it was decided that it would be the keynote, and Bo, who did Stephanie's story, we met him, did a kind of a call, and I looked at her afterwards, and I'm like, holy cow, this is actually legit. Yeah. Long story short, first week of October, actually it was the week of my birthday, they flew a whole film crew down there to Austin. Producers, sound people, or maybe they hired local talent.
Yeah, I think
it was not like
people.
Me and my iPhone and a couple of people with a camera. It was
a selfie stick.
Yeah,
it wasn't a TikTok.
Nice throwback.
And
callback.
They found this incredible old like military hall in this little town south or north of Austin, which is where on the video where I'm talking in the background and Sheldon's talking. And what you don't see is so freaking hot in there. They didn't turn off the ACs because they were too loud. Yeah. And so it all kind of came at once, and they interviewed Kate and Joe, myself, and then Sheldon a little bit longer. They followed Sheldon the next day and went to Copper's Cove, which is a suburb near Fort Hood. And that's where his mom lives. And so they interviewed his wonderful mom, who was at Dreamforce as well. And so to try to put the story together.
And then I had to wrangle a solid 20 of our alumni for a classroom setting and a happy hour staged for the video, which was so interesting.
So if you see the end of the video where it says like Trailblazers coming together and we're all standing there, that was just people that we got together like 24 hours last minute in Austin.
It was kind of challenging. So we even leading into Dreamforce, we were still having these, moments where we looked at each other and we're just like, what in the world? Like, how did this? So grateful. I mean, it was an incredible moment for Maravis. It gave us so much, credibility. It told the message in a really, really compelling way. I mean, Sheldon is such an example of the impact that Maravis can make in lives and in careers. And what you didn't hear was a little bit of Hector's story, which is just as compelling because he sat in the same chair as Sheldon did at one point, which is why he started Maravis to begin with. So we still, I think up until like the morning of, we just kept looking at each other and having to pinch ourselves. Like, how did we get here? Because I had at our board retreat in January of last year, so a year ago, I had on my like stretch goal wish list,
the big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah, the big aspirational thing that, could maybe happen was to be featured in a keynote at Dreamforce the way that Pep Up Tech. We, have a great relationship with them through Stephanie and, other ways that we support each other. And I was just like, oh man, it'd be so cool if we were in that position. And sure enough, a year later, I'm like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So,
and I got chills.
Well, and I will say this, I think a lot of credit, and you don't see it behind the scenes, goes to Stephanie.
Yeah.
And her incredible passion
amazing.
And compassion for the veteran community. And I think, I think I know, like behind the scenes, she was advocating as well. And we can't thank her enough as well, just for her continuance.
She's a huge advocate.
Oh, she's like a walking ray of sunshine.
100%. I totally agree.
So that's a wonderful segue into like a little bit of background about why Maravis, why Salesforce and veterans.
Yeah. So,
because you're a past equestrian, right? Or you're a past jockey, and you're just like, you know what? I'm going for the military. They just go together, right?
I haven't heard that.
I have no idea why that is what I tried to pull. I tried to pull as random as like, obviously you were in the military, but like trying to pull something random, this will probably be cut out. And I don't know that's why I picked. I don't have a horse in here. I don't even see horses in my life day to day. I don't even know what happened there. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry.
There's some editing, I think. So without getting into a lot of detail, and I shared a little bit of this at portions of Dreamforce, I didn't have a very normal background. I came from a pretty challenging background as a young man, and was lost, certainly in high school. And I joined the Air Force 2 days out of high school, and I didn't realize at the time, but it had instilled in me characteristics that have been with me my whole life. So discipline, leadership, responsibility, just formed those really important characteristics, which, by the way, are in a lot of the folks that go through our class.
Right.
And that's what makes them very attractive for employers. If you don't see it, that's like, we need to tell you now, it's there. They have it. And so took advantage of it and learned a lot in the military, took advantage of the GI Bill, went to college, and then through the technical ranks, I found Salesforce in 2007 when I was at Dell. We rolled it out globally. That's when I met Joe, who's the third co-founder. And, I was at Dell for a while. And then was at Salesforce for a couple of years, 14 to 16. And that's when VetForce got started. So I helped start that as a volunteer because I had a day job at Salesforce. And it was at this moment, very specific moment, I think it was October 26, 2014, in the car on I-35, I said to myself, we have to start a nonprofit that partners with VetForce, focuses on Texas veterans, and gives back to the community that had given me so much as a young man. It was a no-brainer. And the way I looked at Kate, and she'll probably echo it, like she's like, I don't know if I have a choice.
Yeah, there was no argument. There was no debate. There was no arguing. This is happening. Get on board or get out of the way. Like that was.
It wasn't that, but it was more of a. She knew the passion. She saw the passion, and it was just like. And for me, I'm a hiring manager as well, and I'm like, this makes so much sense.
People I want, yeah.
Just kind of fast tracking, like we bootstrapped that first cohort, $5,000-$6,000 of our own money. We got it going. We paid the instructor, and we didn't know if it was going to work. But it did. Sheldon was in that first one, and many other veterans. There's one. His name is Desmond. He's in Portland, working for Salesforce now. He was in that first cohort, and then slowly over time, Salesforce Saturday, the community. Stephanie comes on board. We start to have these success stories. Kate takes a role several years later as executive director. We upskill our board. And through the generosity of the community, the Salesforce community, the corporate community, the coaches who aren't veterans, some of them aren't veterans.
Rock stars.
We could not have done it without that perfect mix. It's not about me. It's not about Kate. It's about the community that built it. And now 2020 will be another hockey stick year, I think, for Maravis. And 95% of it's attributed to the community and 5% is to Kate.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting because I do feel like there's certain characteristics of a BA, like a solutions oriented, asking the questions, structured kind of person that does translate well in a skill set. So, do you feel like that translates to spouses as well? Well, I feel like the spouse typically is going to be the female in the situation, just stereotypically.
We've had more than that.
But
now.
You're right. It traditionally is, but yeah, and I mean, you've got a good answer.
Yeah, I think Sky Tyler, who if you haven't had Sky Tyler on the show, you should totally set that up.
She's amazing.
She's so great. And she's I bring in. When we're planning out the cohorts, we bring in a lot of speakers to sort of introduce our students to the different career paths because there's so many of them. There's a lot of sort of what is it really like behind the curtain. So we bring these speakers in, most of them are coaches, and they kind of demystify a little bit of what a day in the life is like. And Sky, being a military spouse when she started in Salesforce, is an amazing speaker to talk to some of the challenges that they can't move up the ranks in their career because they're constantly having to start at ground zero once they get orders to move somewhere else. So, it's
a reset every move.
Every time they move, they have to start over. And there's a lot of issues where if you have any sort of state licenses don't cross the country, go across state lines. So even if you're a nurse or something like that, where you have credentials, those won't necessarily transfer with you if you go across the state. So, they are and I get very passionate about this because they are also the ones that are much more behind the scenes, making just as many sacrifices and not necessarily being in the spotlight, so to speak. So the fact that, and we align our programs with that Sunday's making an appearance. We align our programs with what Salesforce Military puts in place. And the fact that they include spouses is such a wonderful thing because they need just as much support for skill development, for training, for those career opportunities, especially the virtual ones. I mean, there's an entire career path that they are given because of how flexible the Salesforce ecosystem of careers is. And it's really, really wonderful to see that come through. And, they're like, oh, I'm excited about this. I feel like I have a community again. I mean, that's something you lose every time you move is the community.
You have to
and
restart
the people.
your community.
Yeah. So, being pulled into, the Salesforce community, even to me, and I'm not moving around. I mean, that's family to me. I don't know. I've never seen it in any other company. This sort of this everyone rallying and supporting and loving on each other in such an amazing way. And that's something that I think if you're moving so often, and I did this not because his orders changed, but just because he had to changed his job several times, that can really, really impact your confidence and your mental health and, your ability to have relationships. It just sort of snowballs from there. So I think the fact that, Salesforce includes military spouses and allows us to include married to
huge.
It's a huge thing. And they have so much talent. You want to talk
it's
about,
free, right? To be part of the cohorts.
It's $150 fee. Class fee.
Sorry to interrupt. That's not because it's the money part. It's just it's the commitment. It's skin in the game.
100%.
Yeah, we had our very first cohort entirely free. And when it came time for people to show up to the actual instructor-led portion, there were 4 people that never showed up.
Yeah.
And so it's really around just commitment, and because not a lot, but some of these folks we just don't know, and we interview them and we vet them, but it's like a plane that takes off. Once the seats aren't sold, you can't
do anything about it because we are capped at the number of seats.
We want to make sure the seats are all filled up in the admin or whatever class it is.
So an odd business. Well, I guess it's not an odd business question. How do you keep
the lights on?
Yeah, how do you make money? And I don't.
How do you pay for
I'm curious.
Food? Yeah,
you're obviously sustaining. You need to obviously sustain your lifestyle in order to bring more cohorts and bring on trainers, and things cost money, and it seems like it would be really stressful to just rely on grants or donations. So I don't know. I'm just curious how that works.
Well, and you left the corporate world. You left.
Yeah. So in terms, so one, we were, when you think about Marivis and to back up, in 2018, up until then, we were a volunteer run board, right? So we had, we're doing like a cohort or so a year, maybe 1 or 2. We didn't have any advanced classes. It was all admin and that was it. And we, Salesforce approached us and they were just like, we love what you're doing. We want to see you do more of that. What do you need? And we're like a strappy volunteer board of like 6 people. And we're like, we need funding.
Money.
We need staff because we cannot do any more than we're already doing. We're already burning out. At the same time, I had just come out of business school. I was in the process of a career transition and I wanted to go into nonprofit world because after digressing a little bit, but when I was going through business school, I went in with the intention of sort of climbing the corporate marketing ladder, which was my background. And the more I dug into it, the more I just really felt that I was being called to the nonprofit world because they need that business acumen as much as a corporation does. Mm-hmm. And that was the direction that I wanted to pivot. We've been very, very blessed in that Hector has been so successful in his career that he can allow me to take a step in that direction and essentially take a chance on Marivis where I can work part-time and take that hit. I work full-time, but I'm paid. I love what I do and I love seeing the success. But, Marivis we've been very, very blessed to have support from Salesforce to help us get started. We have had other really fantastic sponsors. Accenture has been an incredible partner for us, both with funding and with pro bono consulting services. We also have a number of volunteers that come from Accenture. And we have other, kind of corporate sponsors that come around as well. And we're really trying to focus as we, again, last year was sort of a big work to me. But we just hired on a second staff person to manage the programs, which is sort of what was weighing me down. So I can go focus on those fundraising opportunities. So corporate sponsorships, there's a lot of grants and money out there for workforce development, a lot out there for career transition. We have had now two years in a row a very, very successful fundraising campaign for Veterans Day that gets mass participation from our coaches, our volunteers, our alumni, people, messaging me on Twitter saying, hey, can I participate this if I didn't go through your program? I'm like, you want to fundraise for us?
Yeah.
No.
I know. So we've been very blessed in that we're kind of going through this transition where we're trying to diversify our funding model a little bit, moving forward so that we can not be so focused on relying on Salesforce's grant. That just makes sense. I don't want to depend on them for the long future, but we're just growing up as an organization.
I equate it, we're an awkward teenager. We were a young, crappy startup for the first 3 years. We're going through a transition on our board from a working board, which rolls up their sleeves and does a lot. And frankly, we still do that. to a strategic and fundraising board. So we've got some incredible new members coming on. I've obviously got to take a dog out here soon. And so fundraising is actually going to be key in 2020 for us. So we're, obviously we're a nonprofit, so we're not profitable, but we are at a point where if we're going to offer and hit our mark in regards to plans, we have to fundraise.
Yeah.
P.S.
And then maybe if you,
I was gonna say you're still doing good marketing because I told my friends that at Salesforce Saturday that you were going to be our guest, and they were like, "Will Sunday be there too?" For anyone that doesn't know, that's the new puppy. Because of course, after all this happening in 2019, you were like, "Yeah, let's get a puppy."
Well, have you heard the story there too? Because that's a fun story.
No, and why the name is Sunday? I'm very intrigued.
Well, so Hector, I picked the breed. I grew up with golden retrievers, so I'm just diehard. There was no other. That wasn't even a compliment.
Goldies all the way. Okay. It's a full Goldie household, really.
Goldie household, I know. And Hector wanted to pick the name, so we met a dog named Sunday about 1.5 years ago at South by Southwest, and he just loved it, and it's somehow stuck with him. So I was like, you can name it whatever you want, as long as I get my little cuddly golden retriever, I'm good. But we had, as you know, so even, starting with Texas Dreaming, Forestlandia, I was just back to back, cohorts, conferences. The rebrand was huge. The new website was huge. Then into Dreamforce. And we were planning to have about 1.5 weeks before we went and picked her up for me to kind of regroup, I guess, sleep.
Yeah.
Maybe email, I don't know. And he had kind of one of those, just started going without me. How, your significant other, they just kind of start going down a path and either you're kind of just going to get dragged along behind them. He's like, yeah, let's just go pick her up that Monday right after Dreamforce. And I looked at him like, are you insane? So yeah, we picked her up. We picked her up immediately after Dreamforce, the Monday after it ended.
Yes.
You're like, I just wanted to sleep.
I know. I was like, I really I had plans for that week to kind of, get caught up on things, and that didn't happen. And then and
now you have a baby.
So yeah, but they're
pretty great though.
She's fantastic. So, but I'm glad everybody knows who she is. That's all.
That was hilarious. It was like, that was the first thing. Will Sunday be there? I was like, they'll be at home, so probably.
Yeah, she makes an appearance on Meredith's office hours and kickoff calls and all of that. Here she is. Hello.
Oh my God, y'all! I wish you could see this fuzzy little fur ball on camera.
But she's already a little teenager almost. Speaking of teenagers, what? She was a little fluff ball, and now she's getting bigger.
She's growing up. She's still a little fluff ball. She's starting to get the adult fur, and we
kind of sad.
We're kind of in denial about that.
Nope. It goes really fast with puppies.
Forever.
Really, really fast. Yeah. They just double their weight every week. Stop growing.
Yeah.
So we mentioned this earlier. Wow. That's how I talk about earlier. Before we started recording, that we do an ally episode. So we kind of wanted to maybe segue a little bit, Hector, and discuss Kate, but we're besties now. So Katie and I were talking about some of your aha lean-in type moments from Dreamforce 2013 and other moments that you were an ally. And I'm not asking you to read your resume, but that's why you're here, is because you're recognized as an ally for helping women, helping other underrepresented communities. And we just kind of wanted to hear maybe a little bit about that 2013 moment.
Yeah. So I coming from tech and being in it for several years, I don't know if I actually knew the lack of gender and racial diversity that, it just didn't exist in some of the places I worked at. Not knocking any one company or team, but I hadn't seen it. And when Katie and I got together and we were,
my bestie, go on.
And we were dating, and then I saw her. She was involved in Young Women's Alliance, which is YWA in Austin, and obviously that 2013 session at Dreamforce was impactful. And then frankly, even on Twitter, just seeing some of the women leaders within the Salesforce ecosystem, whether they work at Salesforce or not, they could be working within the ecosystem. I started to see like, wow, there are things I can't really understand and appreciate. And I need to be aware of that. And that was the first step, right? I need to understand if I'm in a meeting, and it's because tech still is filled with mostly men, and that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if I'm in a meeting and there's maybe 10 people and one person's a woman or 2 people are women, and it's being dominated by the men, I, as a leader, feel a responsibility to say, so and so, whatever her name
Hey,
is,
Care, what do you think?
let me hear what you have to say. And I think now you can almost see it kind of changing, because now I don't have to do it as much, but I still have to do it. And some of it's cultural, some of it's you're just raised that way. Whatever. I don't really care, but what I care about is getting everybody's perspective and making sure everybody's voice is heard. And one of the examples I give is working at a financial services company. I had a team in India, and it was all guys, great developers, and one female. And they would always give their updates, and we'd brainstorm about some solutions in Salesforce. And the young lady would be quiet, and I would always allocate enough time for her to talk, and then she'd come with a whole different perspective that none of the other guys came with. And that was a learning moment even for me as a leader, because I was her boss's boss, and I wanted to make sure she felt like her voice was heard. But frankly, she had a better idea than some of these other guys, and that helps me, right? If I could put the slight selfish piece on, we had a better solution. She thought differently, and she gave me a better idea. And I feel a responsibility as a leader to pave that path so that the other guys in the room see that, wait, I think she actually knows a lot more than we think, right? And it wasn't one time, it was a journey, and I think I'm still learning. I'm very I try to have my eyes and ears open when the opportunity is there to be an ally. Even when it's busy, or I'm tired, or at the end of the day I got a lot of things to do and we just got to hit a deadline. There's always time to make sure that we have inclusion for women within our teams.
Like Salesforce specific events, I think it seems like it's an attempt to try and have more women in the room. I mean, that isn't to say for every company, but I feel like the community and the people that are trying to make a push for it is very inclusive for women.
I think they also, Salesforce is unique, and we could list off 1,000 ways that the Salesforce community and the culture is just so different from the rest of the tech industry. But I think what they do is they change to almost where having these conversations should be expected. It's not. It's to come through and say, I love going to world tours and I love going to Dreamforce because there's so many different leaders featured and brought into the conversation to represent mm-hmm. whatever area it is. And I think a lot of people, for me anyway, sometimes it's really difficult to visualize what a successful woman in tech can look like, or a successful, woman of color could look like, or a successful female veteran, like whatever that looks like. And I think Salesforce does a really great job of giving you some very visible role models just to kind of help you get from point A to point B. They normalize it. Yeah. And that's just, that's something that I absolutely just love about Salesforce. Tony Profit is an incredible leader, and I love that there's so much focus on inclusion in all aspects.
Yeah, I think the very simple way of thinking about it, and being around the Salesforce world is 13 years now. I think now when I work within, whether it's other technical teams or other companies, I'm a lot more used to the diversity that I've seen at Salesforce, that I question why it's not like that elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I have to be careful because I think Salesforce is ahead of the game. They're kind of leading in so many areas that when I'm at other companies or working within other teams, I can't be too judgy about them and say, why aren't you like this? I have to be, here's the path, come follow me, right? And that to me is a lot more conducive to a conversation and moving it forward than just kind of trying to be combative and saying, why don't you have all these? Like, you have to show them, teach them how to fish, and then they'll go somewhere else.
Well, and leading by example.
Yeah. And having the conversations, like you said, a couple years ago, I was casually interviewing, and I don't know, I just was in a mood that day, and I had asked because they did more than Salesforce, and I had said on that Salesforce team, how many are women? It was a team of 20, and I think they said 3. And then I said, and what's your diversity? And it was like, well, it could be better, but I'm not really sure our area. But it was like a stammer conversation. And then I never heard from them again. And that's fine. I wasn't trying to like be a jerk, but it was definitely interesting, the stammer. And I think I made them uncomfortable. That was not my intention. It was really more like I was curious. And we had already had other conversations, and I don't know, I feel like it was going okay, and it was just so bland. So I just kind of was, no, I don't want to say in a mood, but I just was like, can we just be real? You have those conversations. Well, it's the same stuff. What's your background? What do you want to bring to the table? And I'm like, man, I just want a real conversation with an employer. So I asked the questions, and again, I never heard from them. But I think asking those questions and being in a place where we can try and be an ally in any form, I think that, like you said, that Salesforce in this community has opened the door for that to be a common, like, normal conversation. Like, we're going to talk about it.
Well, and I think another thing too you don't have to move mountains. It can be tiny, small, unconscious bias, like just those unconscious things that happen. And I've got a really funny kind of reverse story from grad school. To kind of, Mala as an example is, when I went to UT, I was in the executive MBA program, and I was one of 12 women in a class of 60, and I was the youngest female in the program. And for our capstone trip, we went to Beijing, and I'm with a very heavily male group of students doing all of our cultural business experience things. And spouses were allowed to come on the trip with you as your guest, and they lined up this. Do you want to tell this?
It was awesome later, but basically they had a spouse option whole package. So if
oh my god, did you get to go shopping?
Went, spouse can go. So they had this whole package of events you can go to. So I learned how to basket weave. I learned how to make dumplings. Like, it was all female oriented.
Art studio.
Trip
in there, I think.
And I actually personally enjoyed it, but it was very gender specific on what they were giving to spouses.
The air quotes spouses.
And at the time, some of the leadership, in the program would be like, oh, well, when the wives go do this, we'll be doing this. And I'm like, what? Hold on a second. You are talking about increasing the diversity and the female representation in this. You have to change the way you talk. And it's things that small that just to be aware of. I think another example that I have was at a previous tech role in my history. We had a team of about 12 people. And the manager was like, well, we're going to put together a fun committee to kind of put together like social events and, bowling or, some monthly outing or whatever it is that they do. And he picks 3 of the 4 women on the team to lead up this committee. And I replied back. I was like, I don't feel like this is a balanced representation of the team. But it was,
I'm not your secretary.
So just those, you don't have to move mountains. It can be something as simple as slight nudges that just bubble up something where what felt normal for you is actually not, it's not balanced.
Well, and hopefully just the fact that we're thinking about it and talking about it is a step in the right direction. You know, the more I stalk the two of you on the internet, you're like ballers. Like, how do you have the time to have your whole life? That sounds so silly, but like, man, like just some of these titles on the LinkedIn, you know, and I don't know. Anyway, I guess that's a compliment seated in a not even a question. I don't even know if you can answer that, but like
seated in condensation of that didn't say that right. Seated in a slight
condensation,
mist.
yes.
In a slight mist. Never mind.
No, they've left Texas. There's not as much humidity in Seattle, so they're fine.
No,
it's actual mist.
So what's your like just complete like hard left outside of Marivis and Salesforce life? Like what do you like to do? Like especially up in the Northwest, there's lots of places you can get lost. Yeah. Bigfoot lives up there.
Yeah.
True. We're going to see him next
I was going to say, he's coming over for dinner next week. We travel. I mean, I think that's kind of our, you know, when just was it like what, a couple of days ago, we're just burned out. There's just so much stuff going on. And we were just kind of looking at each other. We're like, we got to get out of town. Like,
yeah,
we gotta shake things up. Cause if we're at home, we're in our routine. We're, you know, very aware of our commitments and our responsibilities. And he and I are in a lot of ways very much the same person. Just, you know, I mean, my mother jokes because she said you basically married the male version of yourself. You know, and we both go we drive hard up until the point we burn out. I mean, that's the personalities. We're both very passionate. We both give and give and give until there's nothing left. But when we travel, we get out of our routine. We shake things up. We get in. Usually, when we're traveling, we're going, you know, out of the country or we're going to a national park. So moving to Seattle was awesome.
I mean, was it last weekend? We just like we get out. So we're going to a lodge on the Olympic Peninsula next weekend. Actually, where Bigfoot lives.
What city?
Lake Quinault.
Or town?
Lake Quinault. It's in the southern part of the Olympic National Park.
Yeah.
So we'll be in a lodge there for the 3-day weekend with Sunday, with good wine, and just kind of decompress. Yeah. She wants to plan, but I think we're just going to plan on relaxing. But I think, you know, I guess to go back and so there's two things I've learned over the last several years of the craziness of working and managing Marivis and keeping up with Katie is you have to take care of yourself first. So I you know, you use this overly used term sometimes, self-care. So whether that's meditation or whether it's reading or whether it's running, I have plantar fasciitis now and I can't run and I'm going crazy. So everybody has their own outlets, whatever that is. You have to do that because you can't. I mean, she says it all the time. How you can't give away if you have nothing
in the tank.
Yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, and that's what it is. I think the other side of it is we're not quite there, but we're getting to a point where we're more about experiences than things, right? So we'd rather go experience an event or travel or maybe a show or whatever versus having a new device or unless I actually need it.
Whoa. I'm not a things person either, but you leave technology out of this. You want to say car, clothes, fine. But you just leave devices out of it.
I do have a lot of late tech stuff, but my car is 150,000 miles on it in 2008. So I don't need a new car.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so, he's a big runner. You can, other than, sifting through all the Sunday pictures online, you can find him and his runs, and he's done the Marine Corps Marathon now a couple of times, and that's always
in the golden hoodie.
In the golden hoodie, mind you, we have pictures. Yep,
those breathe really well, I hear.
Yeah, no. So actually, the last one, I'll send you a picture. I have actually a screen capture of the radar during the marathon that he was wearing the golden hoodie, and a torrential downpour went through Washington D.C. at the time. So he got drenched, and then it got
really humid.
Basically, became a sauna.
Nice.
So he runs marathons.
I'm done learning.
He always every year he says he's done with marathons, but he keeps doing them. But so he's a runner. I love to cook. We love to travel. We love whether it's a weekend getaway into the woods. We do national parks all the time, or seeing another country. We've got.
Do you have the sticker book?
Oh, we have this. We have 2 sticker books actually.
We have the sticker book. It's really fun.
Yeah.
I really love. And then we'll pass it through the family. And then if people go at other places.
What we got for Christmas. So for Christmas we got from my sister a wall, like a hanging wall map that you like take a penny and scratch off the parks that you've gone to, which is super cool. So, we get to
nerd out on stuff like that.
Yeah, we do that stuff with. Well, that's why, so moving from Texas, which is why you associate it with Austin, because we were there for so long.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, how many? I feel like y'all probably have a few pair of boots in your closet. How has the transition been for you?
I don't have any boots. I haven't had any boots since I was like 8. Isn't that crazy?
I think I have a.
I have a pair of
hat. What kind of stereotypical Texas stuff?
I'm not at all.
Yeah, my horse is downstairs.
I don't have the accent either. I don't know how I missed it.
You don't.
But, no, we both born and raised in Texas,
but we miss the food there. So not every time, when I go back, there's this barbecue place in Austin called Franklin Barbecue, and there's always a line. It always sells out, but they allow you to pre-order, and you can pre-order vacuum packed, cooked whole brisket. So I'll pick it up at a specific time, usually within a couple hours of me leaving, and I'll have it on ice and put it in my check-in, and then I'll have it here, and then we have brisket in the Pacific.
It's suitcase brisket. Look what I brought you.
And it gets searched.
It always gets searched
by every single time. There's
TSA,
a little thing being like, "Hey,
we're thinking
there's this slab of meat in your bag.
We get head or something."
So yeah, we bring
It's not a brisket bomb.
Yeah.
The food in Seattle's really good, I think.
Food in Seattle's fantastic. I love living up here. I miss being close to my family. I miss my friends. I miss the community. But Seattle's pretty freaking awesome.
It's really cool.
And it's surrounded by 3 national parks and Vancouver. Like how could you possibly get more beautiful?
Is the rainforest a national park?
It's within the Olympic National Park. Yeah, so the whole rainforest is within Olympic National Park on the other side of the Sound, where the Olympic Mountains are, and the Cascade Mountains are on,
There's a lot
on
to
the
do
east side.
here.
There's tons to do out here.
But that rainforest was gorgeous. So beautiful. I mean, there's so much green and so much water. I miss that.
Everything up here is beautiful. The food is great. You're in, a big city. I mean, we have public transportation, which, by the way,
take the bus to work.
You don't have in Texas. You don't have public transportation.
You just got trucks.
Not that makes sense. You have trucks
and horses.
But
well, you're an equestrian. Remember?
I have a
That's a good callback. Now I'm not editing it out.
There we go.
Nailed it. That's pro podcasting right there.
You brought it up for that earlier.
I have a legit picture of my parents live in Texas, and I have a legit picture of someone outside the McDonald's with tied up their horse to go in and get their McDonald's.
Yeah.
I
believe it. No, I believe it in a heartbeat. We have pictures of Santa Claus riding up and down South Congress on a horse at Christmas time.
Okay, so if people are listening to this and they're like, I want to hang out with these people, like where would they? What do you know? What events are on your agenda for this year?
I actually got that question earlier today and didn't have a specific question. So yeah, I've kind of got my heart set on Banff just because I really want to go there anyway, and to go for Banff Dreaming would just, it sounds like a really good reason to go up there.
Of course.
So we will be at Texas Dreaming. We will be at Forestlandia. Certainly Trailhead DX, certainly Dreamforce. We're also looking at connections. We've got a couple of events scheduled in Austin throughout the year in conjunction with our cohorts. So for those of you that don't know, if there's a Maravis cohort going on during the in-person week, that Thursday evening we always have a happy hour. So we kind of introduce them to the community. They can meet coaches, volunteers, board members, local hiring managers. It's a great community event, and Austin is now pushing, I think, over 100 people on average. So,
do you do the in-person week always in Texas, or does it move around?
Nope. So we had done it in Texas because that's where we were based and that's where we had our network and our connections. We launched last year a cohort in Seattle, and that's going to become, obviously, I think, being here, another sort of major hub. We are, I think, dangerously close to pulling something off in Washington, D.C., probably in conjunction with the Marine Corps Marathon, maybe.
I'm not running it.
No.
Are we taking bets?
Mark his words.
Yeah.
I'm going to ride a horse.
Hector, he's just be still my heart. Thank you. Thank you. I did not also Google it to make sure that I had the word wrong altogether.
Yeah, so I think, that's sort of, I'm going to probably head to Connections. We're looking at a couple of world tours coming up, certainly DC, probably New York again. I was there just before the Christmas holidays, and that was a great conference. Did I say connections already? Maybe connections.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, kind of what we have coming up, just in terms of some of the community events.
Nice.
Anyone
Okay,
in
how about
the area is, I mean, we're close to downtown Seattle, so anyone who's coming up in the Seattle area for work or for play can look us up, and we can go grab drinks for dinner,
or come over for Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
I heard Kate likes to cook, so I mean, my invite is standing. So then, if people are like, this organization sounds wonderful, how do I help them? Even though not just because they're famous, but because Salesforce #Salesforce famous, but because they're. I'm assuming not all the coaches are veterans, right? So
no, so there's a couple of, there's sort of three major ways to get involved. So one is obviously the most impactful is certainly sponsorships, because that helps us continue to offer our programs just like any other nonprofit would. So it's a combination of, I mean, there's a couple of sponsorship options that we have, but really that's about sort of enabling these veterans to change their lives, change their careers, and it's generational and all of that good stuff. So sponsorship is the most impactful way to get involved. As an individual, you can donate, you can volunteer. If you're a Salesforce professional, you can coach. We are looking for, coaches always come on board. We pair them up one-on-one for our admin class, and for a lot of our advanced classes as well. So if you have an area where you've got, a certain area of expertise in Salesforce, whether it's marketing cloud. We had a marketing cloud class just last, when was that? August. And we couldn't find enough coaches in order to put that together. We had a couple, but they were it was like group coaching. It's not quite the same. So coaches is a great way for Salesforce professionals. Advocacy, I mean, just helping to spread the word is a huge thing. Maravis Vets on Twitter is the best place to keep up with our announcements and connect with us.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Kate's nailed it, right? It's funding, it's coaching. Coaching is important because if you're working at a company and there's ways you want to try to give back that may not be monetary, you can give back your time. But we don't expect people to have to be involved all the time. Yeah. There are times where you've got projects, you're busy, but stay in touch, right? There are times where you're like, wow, I think this October, November, things are slowing down and I wouldn't mind, and there's a Maravis cohort. Or, wow, there's a whole new program that we want to hire X amount of veterans. Like we're getting bigger, but we are very agile when it comes to having communities or people involved with how they want to give back to us. We're pretty flexible.
Yeah, and I think that, the other thing is to really, as more and more companies jump on sort of the Pledge 1% and really look at ways to collectively give back to the community. It's one thing to get, it's great to give back, but you're not only giving back, you're filling the pipeline of talent that we all need, right? I mean, that's the other, you're kind of lifting up the entire Salesforce ecosystem by creating this influx of talent. And we're pretty, I mean, most of our volunteers, our repeat volunteers, I know very, very well, and they'll email me and say, hey, I got to take 6 months off because my, kid has been struggling in school, or, hey, I've got 3 new people on my team who are really interested in getting involved. What can they do? And I mean, and we're very good at kind of pulling you in, as much or as little as you want. But yeah, that's a huge part of it's a huge part of our community too.
Money.
I mean, they're as much as the coaches are as much a part of the Maravis family as our graduates are. Yeah. So they're always welcome.
And in terms of hiring people, is there a specific way to get at them?
Yeah. So, well, there's two.
I'll say the first one. So Trailhead Military rebranded from VetForce. Now it's Salesforce Military. They have Adrian has started this incredible program within there called the Salesforce Military Alliance with Accenture Federal, Prudential, Roycon. The list goes on. Even Amazon at Dreamforce, it was announced, and these companies have collectively agreed with Salesforce Military to give a veteran a guaranteed interview, right? That doesn't mean you're going to get the job. That doesn't mean you're going to get hired, but at least to get your foot in the door. It's up to you to kick it down. It's up to you to learn and prepare for it. But that's a huge, huge change from my involvement way back when to now. To have that, we've seen people get hired from it. So that I would say as a no-brainer. So if you're a company listening, think about being a partner or an alliance member. If you're a veteran listening or a military spouse, learn more about that so that, perhaps it could be an avenue for you to find a job. And Kate,
Yeah, I was going to say, so, and the other way is we have, we're getting better at kind of really collecting the data from all of the graduates that come through our program and having them self-report on if they're a job seeker or not. So we're able to sort of connect those people who have self-identified as job seekers to potential opportunities that come across our plate. So there's always, if you're hiring, you can go onto our website. You can go to our website for a lot of reasons. There's ways to get involved across the board. But you can submit a job request through our website, and it'll come to me, and I can take that information and post it in our job seekers group. So there's always ways to depending on what you're looking for. We have a lot more admins just because of that being such. I mean, the admin class makes up, half half of our classes are all admin. So we have a lot of those new folks that are just getting started in the ecosystem. And it's really important again. And, we've had these conversations with Stephanie. I've heard Tyler Prince talk about this. When the Salesforce consulting roles and the SIs and all of these, the ISVs, everybody starts kind of pulling from each other. That's great, but that's not sustainable. You're going to have to hire new folks who have just gotten their certifications and help bridge them up to that point where they're, at the same level as the rest of your team. Because it's like there's like this whole like poaching from everybody else at some point. Yeah, there's no going to win. But if you can really make a if hiring companies can make a concerted effort on bringing some of those new folks in and developing them and taking, and this is one thing that Stephanie Herrera talks about all the time. If you haven't had her on your show, I'm sure you've had her on your show.
Not yet, I don't think.
My guys.
What have we even been doing?
I don't know. Have Stephanie, man. Okay. One thing that she talks about in a much more eloquent way than what I'm about to say is that you also have to have people that are looking to move up through the ranks and mentor people, and people who are very happy in their individual contributor roles then move into a management role and bring new people in. So really keeping that entire pipeline going at all levels, not just bring new people. Mm-hmm. They can't come in if there's no room. You have to make room by continuing to help people evolve and upskill and move through that career path. So that's her approach is, she gets very, very passionate about that. It's worth a conversation with her. Wink, wink.
Yeah. So I adore her. We've had some virtual happy hours before. It's funny that you said, has she been on the show? Because I was like, sure, yeah. And then I thought, I don't think, or we've just chatted virtually. Okay, I have one more question before the big question. Okay. I know that Mirvis is vet niche. Mm-hmm. Do you have to be a vet to be a part of a cohort?
To be a part of the cohort, yes, you have to be a veteran or a military spouse. You do not have to be a veteran to volunteer as a coach.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we prescribe to the guidelines of Salesforce Military. Yep. So their guidelines are that.
So in your time doing those things and trying to share your ideas, have you had a oh shit moment or your biggest screw up?
Yeah, I haven't really had an oh shit moment because I haven't well, for one thing, I don't have the access to screw anything up. But I haven't been in there.
She's like, I chattered the wrong group once. It was horrible.
I know. No, I think if anything, my biggest script is just that I ask Joe these questions that I'm sure, like a CTA, like imagine, somebody with an economics degree asking questions about like, supply. I mean, just I'm sure to him are just these silliest questions.
No. We talked about this. All ideas are valid.
Yeah.
They might be stupid, but they're valid. No, just kidding.
Do it.
Okay, so Hector's been around the block with some high-tech things. Have you done any silly screw-ups that you might be embarrassed to tell us about? Ooh. Your wife's ready to call you right out, so I guess so.
Wait, have I? Within our Salesforce instance?
Yes. She says yes.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Well, the look on your face is hilarious. She's like, yes.
I was thinking about like my professional career and everything. Yeah, what did I do? I accidentally...
So, oh no, would you like me to help story?
I got you for this.
So he's going to get up and walk away.
Go put your golden hoodie on.
I woke up to an email. Hector had gotten up and gone into the office really early and sent out an email basically thanking you for your application to the Merevis cohort that went to every contact in our database.
We're talking executives. We're talking like our
every contact
supporters. And like
my mother got one. Like, welcome to, and I had people that were just like, did we have? There's a whole tweet about it, I think, too, because he just like literally had this.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
And my mother was just like, "So this was this supposed? Was I?
It was a campaign I created. I had specific people, and then I thought I was just adding Kate, and I added everybody.
So, that's what happens when you have some power, you know.
Even though they're like unsubscribe, I'm like, I'm sorry.
No, don't unsubscribe. I screwed up. Please. I'll have good content later.
Oh, and the funny thing is like I woke up and like there's all of these emails back and forth with Joe on like how do we handle this and what's going on and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm just gonna go back to bed. I can't handle this yet.
Community,
you're like, why did do it?
Some of the email capability, I feel like a lot of our oh shit moments relate to email, especially with communities. Like if you've got a profile and you accidentally activate that shit, it emails everybody. That has happened a non-zero amount of times to me.
So yeah,
welcome to the test QA community. Well, Perez's, you're lovely. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Oh, thank you for having us. This was
thank you so much.
We've driven Hector to skip the glass and just drink straight out of the wine bottle. So he's jumping off that sober January train and just hurling himself right in it. That's my kind of man.
And we would also like to say thank you for your application to every listener to the next cohort. You've been cordially invited.
Oh, that's just so great. I love how he forgot and she's like, yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome. You guys are amazing.
Oh, thank you guys for having us. Yeah, this was tons of fun and I'm sure we'll see you
in the cloud.
In the cloud.
We'll see you in the cloud.
We're so cheesy. So I really want to hang out with them in person now. I think I've seen them both in passing, but that was all warm and wonderful. They're really amazing.
What's that?
So much passion for what they do and just everything. I mean, they're really great.
I thought it was interesting too in that like there already was vet force, right? But that there's still opportunity for people to do complementary things.
Mm-hmm.
I thought was really interesting. To realize that some of the origin of it is like basically kind of like extending what the renamed vet force is doing in the community, right? So the internal Ohana groups and how that kind of connects to the outside and really I think translates to like the app exchange and everything too, right? Like that there's so many places in the community to fit based on what you're passionate about. I mean, this isn't even Hector's full-time life and yet
right.
Just making an impact for people and they just keep announcing great things and teaching us what cohorts means and
true, not a Harry Potter spell. I don't think I mentioned it in talking with them because we did talk to them before this, so it got a little late. We were all gabbing, but I love the passion that they have, and they mentioned Stephanie Herrera too for helping vets. My brother was a vet, my cousin, and I work with Haley, who is also a vet, and I find it interesting that you do this really big, amazing thing for a lot of years, and then when you leave, it's like goodbye. Which, I mean, not necessarily, but it's like such a culture shock of I don't do that anymore. And if you didn't maybe choose a career that translate from what you did, you are kind of starting over. And what a scary place to be. I remember Haley telling me one time that, sure, her rank was so high that like people stood when she walked in the room and then she left. And then it was like, okay, now what am I going to do? I'm going to just start over where I don't know anybody and I'm, learning admin skills. So I find it very, very intriguing and interesting that you can have this huge chunk of life that was so incredibly important. You did such important work. And then you just take a totally different approach, and maybe not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people like Hector and Kate that are there to support you in like, hey, I don't want to, do the thing that I did in the service. I want to do something new. Cool. We support you and we love you and we, thank you for your service and let us help you get to that next level. So they're putting good stuff out there.
Well, and we'll add a link to this tweet that I saw right after we initially recorded, and um, it was really interesting for me because I don't have really a military background of life of family. So I'm probably going to pronounce her last name wrong, but Emily Magoni um, is apparently also a lovely artist, and she specifically made a print called a painting that is now a print called Gratitude, and so the sales from it will benefit Marivis, and it's a beautiful trailhead like purple mountain scene. And it was just interesting reading her story about um, how so many military wives have these skills, but because I believe she was in nursing, and because of how things don't translate state to state, um, that, that life is just so transitional,
Mm-hmm.
and how this is really something that can carry people, that she can work remotely and, have these new opportunities. So not even just the veterans, but the whole families, which I thought was
That
really
matters.
lovely. So yeah.
100%, kind of like the super mums and the mom relaunch out there. Similar in
Hmm.
that sense of, okay, well, now I'm going to do this new other thing that I haven't done in a long time. How do I get there? And we just have, ooh, did I get verklempt? We just have really great community groups out there that are trying to help people succeed. And it's very heartwarming to me. And I have an article that I want to post, but I want to finish reading it. I'm trying to make a real conscious effort of reading the entire article before I post it. That's
Okay.
talking about the community and supporting your self-care and caring for your community. It's a really beautiful article, and I'll post it here soon. But yeah, I enjoyed that, and shout out to both of them for being on. And I know that we could have talked for much longer. And I know that Hector has some more nuggets of stories, and maybe he can be on again. But yeah, it was a really, really great chatting with them. We'll do some shout outs to Sky, Stephanie, lots of shout outs. Yeah,
Takes a village. Yeah.
it does take a village. So let's just wind it down. We talked to them for a while. Do you have a super fave this week? Or this month, or however it's been since we talked
How
last?
even of your life. I've been on the binges recently. So Sex Education season 2 came out, which really um was it sucked me in, was really good. It's got Gillian Anderson in like a totally different role than what I'm used to of her, so that was great.
Yeah.
Um and also
Hunting the big O instead of aliens.
the a
I'm
little bit of
hilarious.
this, a little bit of that. And then also with the season finale of Schitt's Creek is happening. I've definitely talked about that before, but
Maybe once or twice.
yeah. So what else did I? Oh, and the final season of The Good Place. So really,
Oh, so good.
apparently,
Did
I'm
you
just
know
not
that there's
going
a
outside.
podcast?
No.
Yeah. It's like I compare it to kind of like the Talking Dead. So apparently, I just found this out from Justin Edelstein at work. Every episode, I actually started about season 2, they have like people that have been on the episode or producers, and they talk about the episode and take it apart some more. I only found out at the season finale and then went and listened, and I was like Googling things and looking it up. It is like I cannot believe I didn't have it the whole time, but like, thank you, Justin. And I'm going to go back and rewatch and re-listen, and it's delightful.
Is
One
it
of the best
like
shows.
deep stuff that they're getting? Because I mean, some of the pieces are. I mean, I won't say like existential, but like
No, they are. Yeah, it's some of the funny and some of the, oh, did you pick up on this symbolism? Or I listened to this song on repeat for 4 days to get this part right. One of the writers was saying it's just really kind of like, more in the show. It's awesome.
okay. Well, apparently, I need to listen to that.
Yes, I have been binging Brooklyn Nine-Nine
Really?
in preparation for the season, new season coming out. I freaking love that show. The one-liners in that show are ridiculous. Hilarious. You have to find it and love it. I know that all the seasons are on Hulu for sure.
Okay.
It's brilliant. The show kills me. I just think about it. I'm like, ha, 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 ha. That was not my super fave though.
Oh, well, you're allowed to have another one.
Well, I just wanted to be cool like you and say that I was binging something. I had a conversation with Amy the other day. We were talking about like life goals and big goals, and she said something about like writing goals down. And I was like, yeah, big advocate for that. I've been doing that for nearly 20 years since I moved back here from Seattle. You know, I had to kind of piece my little life back together. So I always had a post-it of big goals and shorter term goals, like maybe things in this year or maybe, you know, bigger things that require time or money. And I got away from it somehow. Just, I don't know. I was
Okay.
like, I'm good. I'm fine. And since talking with her and she kind of put it back in my brain, I wrote a post-it of big goals and small goals. And you know, I don't want to read too much into anything or let myself down, but like 2 of them already have kind of like popped up and kind of reared their head in a way. And I was like, whatever, universe, don't be like that. I mean, yes, be like that, but what? So if you are thinking, I want to put something out there into the world, write
Manifest
it
it.
down. Yeah, put it on a post-it where you see it. I see it right next to my desk right now. I wonder if the smaller goals haven't happened because a lot of them are financial based. So I think the universe is like, yeah, you're going to need to do that yourself.
Give us a minute.
Yeah. But the bigger ones were more like ethereal goals, or like a thing I want to do or a thing I want to manifest. And like the smaller ones are more like, really want to pay off this credit card. But yeah, so again, I don't want to read too much into it because if one of them doesn't like come through, that's fine. I want to be like, oh, look, that's it. These post-its don't work. But it's good to see them and remember, especially when you're super busy or tired or days you're like, ugh, remember that, there are bigger goals out there and things you want to do.
Look at you.
I know.
Because it can't hurt.
No. I mean, the biggest thing I'm out is 2 post-its.
Well, I was going to say, it's a good reminder too that I tend to get in my own head about like, oh, I need a special notebook to track my goal journey. And, I can't do the thing until I have the right container to put it in. And then I acquire the things and don't finish. So really, you don't have to get in your own way and you can just write on a dang Post-it.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah. That's it. That's what I got.
I hope people enjoyed a look into Maravitz with 2 Perez's and a Sunday puppy that you can follow on Instagram. I love it so much.
Cute. I know.
And until we talk to you again, stay witty.
Boop, boop.